John, because it's a presidential, because there's the presidency is at stake, no? Parang minsan hindi napapansin yung sectoral candidates. But because perhaps you and me, we are political dorks, napapansin natin yung, what I like about the kickoffs is it's when you see the shared candidates, kumbaga picking kung saan ba talaga sila magpapakita, saan sila papanig. First, siguro yung una kong tanong ay, ano ba tong shared candidates na to? Bakit ba tayo may shared candidates sa elections natin dito sa Pilipinas?
I'm glad you raised that because that's really another striking thing about today's proclamation rallies. We've had common candidates before, shared candidates, but I think this year we can see it in on full display. By my count, I think there are about 9 politicians, all of them national figures, either incumbent or former senators, one former vice president, and one public works former public works secretary, who are shared by different slates. That is a concession to political reality, because the reality is our party system is very weak. So in fact, political dynasties, and many of these come from political dynasties, are the equivalent of political parties. The brand of an Escudero or a Lauren Legarda or a Joel Villanueva or a Jojo Binay is actually higher than the value of, let's say, a PDP Laban or an Action Democrático. So it's very sad that we've reached this point. But on the other hand, it's also a question of political viability. So a presidential candidate who is able to invite big names is sending very strong and expensive signals to the competition that he or she is capable of attracting big names like Gordon, who, for instance, surprisingly showed up in Naga. So Gordon is one of 5 common candidates, guest candidates, they are called, from an internal perspective, of the Robredo Pangilinan slate. And he was the only one who showed up in Naga of the 5 guest candidates. One of the other guest candidates, Zubiri, showed up in Marcos's proclamation rally, and then had a video and sent his wife to represent him in the Lacson Soto proclamation rally. Some of this is it's the political class doing favors for one another. If you look at the 9 here, most of them are senators. Many of them revolve around the so-called former macho bloc in the Senate. You have Loren, you have Tito Soto, you have JB Estrada, JB Ejercito. So this is the political class doing favors for one another. But it's also important to realize that 3 slates, Lenny's, Pings, and Manny's, have 5 common candidates. Unusual. I don't know what that would mean. I think that right now, for instance, Zubiri made the decision to show up personally at Marcos's proclamation rally because that's where the votes are at this point in time. It's very possible that if the surveys show go in a different direction, he might be hosting proclamation rallies of his own for Robredo or Lacson or Manny Pacquiao. He's part of 4 slates back in his home province of Bukidnon. It's very interesting. It can be quite confusing, but really it's an indictment of Philippine political reality that politicians, other politicians need to share common candidates.
Yeah. On that note, also interesting yung mga shared guest candidates who didn't show up in any kickoff. Top of mind, former Senator Honasan, his wife attended the Marcos Jr. and Sara Duterte's kickoff. Pero I believe if I remember correctly, he already committed to a kick-off event or an event with victory, if I heard that right. And if I'm not mistaken, former Vice President Jojo Marbinay naman went around Batangas earlier pero hindi din siya sumama sa mga kick-off ng vice presidential at presidential candidates, even though he is a shared resource, shared candidate of several slates. John, gusto ko rin itanong, itong kay Sara Duterte, baka biased ako kasi I cover Sara Duterte in 2022, but Saturday, she announced that she was supporting 3 candidates outside of the unit team slate. Kanina, nung nag-speech siya, nag-announce siya ng 4 more names. So she has 7 candidates na wala sa unit team slate, pero kumbaga personal slate niya. Have we heard that happen before? That you have, a tandem, because ironically, unity pa yung battle cry nila kumbaga, but you have a vice president endorsing a separate slate from the tandem slate.
No, I have never come across this phenomenon, and I've certainly never come across a phenomenon of a unity tandem with separate Senate recommendations. So Sara, for instance, has 4 common candidates: Lauren Legarda, Chis Escudero, Jinggoy Estrada, and Mark Villar, shared with other slates. I find that very interesting. I'm really curious to know, what I would pay to be a fly on the wall in the Marcos campaign headquarters. I guess even Bongo Marcos might be wondering what is this about. I really don't right now. I really don't know what to make of it, except that Sara is very much her own woman, I guess.
Right, and 2 of those, if I'm not mistaken, 2 of those candidates, but I may have lost count. 2 of them are PDP Laban candidates, Sal Panialo and Robin Padilla. So wala sila sa unit team slate. So kumbaga at this point, plus unit team, Sara's endorsing more than 12 senators. But to add to that, hindi rin yan bago sa Dutertes. Kasi ganun din sila nung 2019, lagpas 12 yung in-endorse ni Sara under HNP sa Davao Region. And the Dutertes themselves sa Davao City, parang naging habit din nila yun na kumbaga sa local elections, sa councilors, lumalagpas sila sa limit ng kung ilan lang yung nahahalal na councilors, but they just endorse the candidates, they get the support of the Dutertes. Pero kumbaga, ikaw na bahala, make sure that you win the elections and you secure that council seat.
I'm glad you brought it up, Bea, because yeah, that is true. That's very characteristic of the Duterte brand of politics. So I guess Sara is very much her father's daughter. This is a very Darwinian approach to politics. They really believe in this survival of the fittest. So they support, in 2019, they supported 13 senatorial candidates for 12 seats. Parang bahala na kayo. Parang ganon, no? Very Darwinian. It's fascinating, actually.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how this will all unfold. Feeling ko in the coming weeks, going back to the shared and then the shared/guest candidates, parang maglalaglagan na kumbaga. Kasi some campaigns will eventually kumbaga ask the candidate, please pick, because you can't endorse 4 presidents, for example.